Baltimore and Duffus Brown Convention Center. We're not quite on the roof. We're on the third floor. Luke Jones riding shotgun, and we're talking all things football and Super Bowl. And this beautiful young lady has been a multiple-time guest on my program, but I never met her until here. She is an attorney. She covers all things Texans for the Houston Chronicle, and she's here. And I put this in the headline just to anger you, to say you're here to defend Tom Brady. But you and I got into a spirited debate. I think Texas beer was involved. It wasn't amber.
Sure.
Large, 16-ounce, because everything's bigger in Texas. They don't serve 12-ounce beer here.
That is true.
That is true. And you and I had a spirited debate about Tom Brady and process and Deflategate. Look, I'm half kidding. Every person that sat in the chair, I'm like, all right, what are they doing to cheat to win
Sure.
now, right? And I think when you've been caught cheating once or twice or three times, chances are you're up very, very late at night trying to cheat. I treat liars and cheaters sort of in that vein,
Sure.
that once a cheater, once a liar. I don't say always, but always looking for what they would call an edge, which the people that get cheated would call cheating,
Sure.
Put them in jail, lock them up, as they say. In the case of Tom Brady, there was so much paperwork. I'm not honestly going to say I sat and read it all. You did.
I did.
You did. And I guess that's where you come in now to express part of that, because you
Sure.
think he was given a bad deal, and not because you like him or you like the Patriots.
No, I would like for the Patriots to, be devolved into a flaming power,
You're a Texas
clam
person.
chowder. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, like
Well, you don't like cheating any more than I do.
No, like when the allegations happened, I mean, of course, if the Patriots are involved, you're going to be very interested in it because, there have been allegations for years. The number of home games that they have won over the years is incredible. But at the same time, they have a great quarterback. They have a great coach. I mean, sometimes you win because you're really good. And so
they are very good.
So when they crushed the Colts, this became an issue right away. There was all sorts of reports originally that sounded like a bunch of the balls were significantly underinflated. Now, that didn't end up being true.
Well, the NFL also leaked to friendly media that this was a real story. And look, Kravitz is a friend of mine as well in Indianapolis.
Well, not the entire NFL. The NFL, like the media, is not a monolith. Media is different. Different people in the NFL are different. One or two or three people in the NFL leaked something, right? Somebody did. It doesn't mean the whole NFL did. In fact, the NFL has rules against leaking. So whoever did it was violating NFL rules if they were leaking something.
Privileged information.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So when all of this hit the fan, because of my background in legal stuff and investigations and knowing how investigations work, like I've been on the other side of that, and so I see how the investigation.
What is your background, by the way?
It's very different. I worked for large companies for 10 years in-house, so I handled a lot of those investigations. And then now I work for my husband's criminal defense firm, so we handle very difficult situations.
You're the people that we call when we get in trouble.
Yes, everybody hates criminal defense lawyers unless something really bad happens to them and they say they're innocent and everybody else says, no, you're not, and you need a defense. So
Brady was guilty until proven innocent in the eyes of
and
everyone that doesn't like Tom Brady, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of how our rage society works, that, there's a rage about something. And I talked about this. We had a symposium this last Thursday by the University of Houston Law Center where we looked at Deflategate and beyond that and what lessons you learn from it. And we have this thing called the irrational primacy effect. So the first information that you learn about something, a lot of times people will hold on to that information even if they're given additional information that shows that that's not accurate. And it's one of the things
like
that...
the world is flat.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that, like, in a jury situation, you have to overcome. Like, if somebody's arrested and they're sitting as the defendant, you have to overcome the jury thinking, well, because this person's arrested, that means that they're guilty. Like, that... The primacy effect assumes certain things that, you can't necessarily assume. So in this situation, a lot of people assume things right away because we believe the Patriots are cheaters, and that's a common belief. So I was just like, okay, I'm just going to listen to the evidence without preconception. When I analyze anything, whether it's football or legal things, I try to treat it almost like algebra. Like, so I take the names out of it. Like, Team X has a reputation for cheating. Quarterback Y is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. and I try to take the names off of things because we tend to do things by teams, and our feelings about things are based on those preconceptions. So I try to take those preconceptions away and just look at what the evidence said. There was an original denial by Bill Belichick. There was an original 30-minute press conference that Tom Brady did where he explained everything that he felt about footballs. And the original reaction to that was, oh, well, they looked really uncomfortable. And Bill Belichick threw him under the bus. And I'm looking at the same thing, and I'm like, they just have no idea why this information is out there.
Was that the white sweater press conference in Phoenix? Is that the one?
He was wearing a gray sweater. I know this because I put this as a part of the seminar. I'll put the link up in a little while. But yeah, he had this goofy hat on. They made fun of it in Saturday Night Live.
I remember that.
And they asked him all sorts of questions. Well, if you have 30 minutes of one person talking about balls, well, guess what happens? You're going to be clowning that because it's pretty funny. Talking about deflated footballs, it's easy. Like the jokes write themselves.
Oh, of course.
So, that happened. And then originally, the NFL had said, oh, well, the investigation is going to take a couple days. So we thought it was going to come out before the Super Bowl. And then they announced, no, we're hiring Ted Wells to handle it. He's the same person that handled the Bullygate investigation. And they said, a couple months. Well, this happened in the AFC Championship game, but the Wells report didn't come out until May. And that entire time, the mistaken information about 2 pounds under pressure was out there, but it was all a lie. And the Patriots actually the whole time begged the general counsel, the head of the legal side of things for the NFL, begged them to correct that mistaken report and said, this is hurting our brand. You need to fix this in the media. And the response was, no, we're going to keep everything of the investigation quiet, and that will be corrected in the Wells report. Well, it was corrected, but there were so many other things in the Wells report that were said that nobody really paid attention to the fact that the balls were barely underinflated. And most of the science, if you look at all the science and the footnotes within, their own report, says, this could all be explained by, it was cold outside.
Well, in the end, the NFL does not operate like our judicial system should operate, right? I mean,
no.
They're their own company, and whatever Goodell wants to hand down, and apparently he has really supreme power in a way that a lot of other leagues, the commissioner wouldn't have that power.
Well, and it's a weird situation because they've had this setup within the CBA that allows him to be
the judge,
the final determiner. That once they have the arbitration, the appeal goes to him. So that setup's been there for a while.
And he's not a lawyer, and he's not a judge.
He looks like a lawyer. He looks more like what people stereotypically think a lawyer looks like.
Dresses
more than me.
like a lawyer.
Totally. I don't dress like a lawyer because dressing like a lawyer is boring. But in any event, he's doing a lot of things like a lawyer, but the same people that did the investigation were the same people defending the bad investigation at the arbitration. So, the whole time to the media, Roger Goodell's saying, this is fair, this is independent, but when you read the legal pleadings the whole time, they're arguing to the court, we don't have to have independent report. We don't have to be fair. We can just be, we could arguably be fair. We can just jump through the hoops of pretend arbitration, but we can do what we want. And really, there were 4 judges that decided, once on the lower level and once higher. And 2 of the judges went for the NFL's way, and 2 of the judges went for Brady's way. And it's a difficult legal issue from just, the standard of arbitration.
What were they entitled to, though? I mean, there's a lot made of Brady and the texts and the phone. He's made $150 million playing football. I mean, he does work for the league, but what was the legal, screw you, I'm not giving you my phone. I mean, I felt like there was cover-up on the New England side because that's what you do when you lie.
Actually,
I felt like there was cover-up on the Ray Rice thing. I still believe that. Obviously, there was probably all sorts of cover-up on Bountygate and the whole videotape of Belichick in a tree with the cameras. That was all, all of that stuff. When you do wrong, unless you're honest and just want to take your punishment, you're going to lie and lie and lie or have alternate facts or truth until such point. I mean, we're seeing it with our government right now.
No, I think it's more of a situation of the fog of war, that when you're in the midst of something, you don't know everybody's motivations. And so when I look at what the NFL released, and then the Patriots did this thing called the Wells Report in Context, where they put more context in. They didn't call it a refutation because, like, how do you complain about the punishment to the person who has the final arbitration? It's like having, porcupines having sex. You have to do it really carefully, and they're carefully saying, your report's really bad. And that's what they were doing.
You thought the whole thing was sloppy.
It was really bad. I mean, it was really, really bad. I mean, basically, the reason why Tom Brady got suspended was because of a discovery dispute between lawyers. Because if you look at the whole report, the Patriots gave extensive cooperation. They put their witnesses out to the NFL multiple times. Tom Brady, Wells said that both Tom Brady and the Patriots gave ample cooperation. And if you look at the entirety of everything, they gave them video, they let them talk to all the people. But there were some disputes of small things, like, was the NFL allowed to talk to the equipment guys another time? Well, they had an agreement that said you're only supposed to talk to these guys this number of times. And the reason why you have these kind of agreements is if you're in a room with 4 lawyers grilling you, that's a really uncomfortable experience. And the reason why they wanted to talk to them again was they goofed up and they didn't find the quote-unquote deflator text to ask them more questions. And so the Patriots said, hey, look, you've already interviewed this guy multiple times. Can't we do this over the phone? And it was one of these kind of things that was kind of left in the air. Like, the Patriots thought one thing and the NFL thought something else. The same thing happened with the Tom Brady cell phone. They didn't even want his cell phone. They didn't say, hold your cell phone, because like in a normal, civil litigation, there's a hold put on something. If there's a dispute, you go to the judge. Well, that's not this kind of situation. So they said, we want the contents of his phone, and his agent/lawyer said, how do you have the ability to get his private phone? We're uncomfortable giving you that. And that was kind of left as an open issue. Like,
well, I got sued a couple years ago. The first thing they asked for was my email, and I'm thinking to myself, well, F you. I don't want to give you my email,
sure.
but there's nothing in there. But
sure.
I don't want you having my email. It's my email.
And if you say there's nothing in there, you're almost waiving your privilege not to provide that information. So before you say there's nothing in there, what you're trying to do is find out what authority they have to look at it, right?
Correct.
And so
why should I give this to you? Right.
There was a dispute of whether there was authority to it, but like really, if you're talking about deflated footballs, if you're talking about the equipment guys' text messages, they already had the text messages from those 2 guys anyway, right? And so Tom Brady wouldn't have known at that time that the text message, a couple random text messages would be such a big deal. Because really, if you look at the whole Wells report, I mean, it's really long. There's a lot of supporting documents. But if you look to the basic parts of it, there's nothing in there that says Tom Brady likes footballs outside the permissible ranges. Not a single thing. There's one thing in there that's the only thing that references what he likes is a text message between one of the equipment guys and his fiancée before all of this hit the fan that says, Tom was right, the balls are supposed to be at 13. Now, that's to his fiancée. He's not trying to impress an investigator or a lawyer or anything. That's their information. They found that on the text messages. So there was no direct evidence of anything. And they tried to claim it was circumstantial evidence, but circumstantial evidence is like you find a gun at the scene and it has the person's fingerprints on it, or you have gunshot residue on somebody's arm. You can make deductions like, oh, well, if you have this on your arm,
you fired a gun.
Yeah, but saying that a guy goes to the bathroom with balls over his shoulder before he goes to an entire half, and he's an older guy, are you going to assume that if he goes in the bathroom, that means that he did something bad in the bathroom? Or do you think, oh, if he spends 90 seconds in the bathroom, he's going to the can before he's going to be on the field for half of a game? I mean, that's not circumstantial evidence. All that's evidence is the guy went to the can. It's not evidence that anything happened in there. And There were so many things in the Wells report that you could read either way, and they read everything in the most harsh way they could. Like, it read like a prosecutor report. It did not read like an independent report. And you can tell the difference. The NFL has done independent reports before, and you can read through them, and they're like, okay, I might quibble with this or that, but it reads like an independent report. The Wells report had science in it that in a normal courtroom would not be admissible at all because it's garbage, and had a whole bunch of assumptions in it where you're like, there's no direct evidence, and there's no circumstantial evidence.
Or the Patriots lawyers now telling Kraft and Brady that there should be no punishment, because that's what their belief was, right?
Yeah. Like, they were like, what is going on here? Nothing happened. We kicked the Colts' ass. We're ready for the Super Bowl. This stupid thing came up. We're cooperating with you fully. They don't know that the NFL is on the warpath because of this discovery dispute. They have no idea that the weird dots that were connected by the Wells report, that once in a radio interview, he said that he liked them on the lower end of the scale, or nobody would have tampered with the balls without the direction of him. Well, yeah, once he picked the balls that he wanted to play for the game, he wouldn't want anybody to mess with them. That's what he said. But to take that information and say, well, something happened and he directed it, is ridiculous. I mean, it might have happened, but there is not a single piece of evidence in the Wells report or otherwise that suggested it. But there's a lot of stuff that was really weird with the way that the NFL handled things, which looks sketchy to them, like saying that it's an independent investigation and it not being an independent investigation. Or the worst part about it was, usually the arbitration hearing is completely sealed. So we don't know what was said by Tom Brady. He said under oath he didn't do any of this stuff, right? When they came up with the final determination, Goodell's people said, well, Tom Brady had these text messages, and he wouldn't have texted back and forth with the equipment guy on just ball preparation. Like, he said that, and that's not believable. But in his testimony, he said, no, we talked about a number of different things. So he mischaracterized Tom Brady's testimony repeatedly in the arbitration finding. And we wouldn't have known that except for Judge Berman trying to pressure the sides to make this case go away because it's really stupid. He was trying to get them to settle. He said, if you don't, we're going to go forward, but if we go forward, I'm going to release all this information. So Tom Brady's embarrassing emails came out, and this arbitration hearing came out that showed that the league was doing stuff that looks pretty sketchy.
Steph Stradley is here. She is an attorney here in the Houston area, as well as a blogger and columnist with the Houston Chronicle, covering all things Texans. It's a big deal down here, right?
It is a very big deal.
And it's crazy that Tom Brady's a part of this, right? I mean,
yeah, well, it's not crazy because he's pretty good at going back to Super Bowls.
They won it here first time, right? I mean,
that's right.
Who would have thought that he could be in the league 13 years later?
The Janet Jackson game.
That's right.
It was.
There's a lovely star on her nipple, as I remember it. I didn't get to see it, though. They put the red X over the screen. Not
there you go.
Well, they would now. That changed things for the FCC. I have an FCC license. So.
Is that right?
Yeah, so that was an FCC issue.
It was. So, but yeah, I mean, I just wrote a column about, welcome to Houston. Here's some tips. I mean, the basic tip is eat barbecue, eat, Mexican breakfast, eat all the things that you
don't get at home.
Yeah, and you don't have to find the best of everything, because even the not best is still better than where you're from.
I had catfish for breakfast. Luke had pork
chops.
We would not do that.
Seriously?
Yeah, man. We had.
Wait, you
went to the Breakfast Club.
I know, but
pork chops and eggs.
What do you think I did over there? Have hash browns? I mean,
I usually get the waffles and chicken. That's pretty good.
I thought of that.
And they're so nice over there.
They were very nice.
They're extraordinarily
very
nice.
They took my coffee on the way in the door, but that upsets me. Taking Nestor's coffee is not a good thing to do at 7 a.m.
Well,
it wasn't very good coffee anyway.
It was horrible coffee.
I think it's a health inspector thing, so they don't want to get in trouble.
You lawyers. What can I say? Tell me about the Texans a little bit. I mean, they were close but not close enough, right?
Well, they did so well on defense, and that game in the playoffs was so good, but you're just like, the defense can't hold it together if the offense can't do anything and keeps putting him in bad situations. And that was the worst case scenario. They needed the offense just to be okay. But, I mean, it should make Falcon fans feel good. Like, it's like, look, they were going toe-to-toe with the Patriots with a horrible offense. You know, if you put a decent offense on the field, see what the Patriots can do, because, you know, the league nowadays has so many cruddy quarterbacks, including the one for the Texans. And so, I mean...
So I don't need to ask you about Brock Osweiler now.
Well, you know, there is the point of view that the second year in the system would help him. I think they're going to have an open competition, which that has its own perils. I don't know what they're going to do for their, you know, what they add in the off season.
Well, I don't know if you're O'Brien or you're anyone in the organization, whether you look at the body of work this year and say, we're going to come back with that again next year, and that's just going to get better. You know?
Well, you know, they fired the offensive coordinator. Bill O'Brien has taken that back up. But, you know, every single year he's run the Texans, that offense has looked terrible. But, you know, they've had a bunch of slappies as their quarterbacks. So, I mean, what would you expect? You know, you would hope.
Speaking of slappies, Matt Schaub's back.
You know, he's the best quarterback.
The best you've ever had.
Hey, you know, he beat the Ravens some, you know. Not much, but some.
Well, he wasn't available, for a couple of the key games, right?
It was T.J. Yates in that
T.J.
playoff.
Yates.
Oh, that's right.
In Baltimore.
I was there.
In the red uniforms.
I had seats at the 50-yard line. I was right behind the Texans bench. You know, it
Did you get a crab cake at least when you came?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
You know, when in Rome and all that kind of stuff. It was a lot of fun. I went to Mother's before the game. We paid the DJ to play Texan stuff, and then he did until somebody else paid him to stop playing the Texan stuff. And then
we take American money in Baltimore.
Well, exactly. You know, and you know that's the rule of the traveling Texans. You know, we tip well. That's what we try to do. You know, be good on the road. And then I went to a tailgate, and on the way, you know, we were getting a few one-finger salutes, and then we went to some.
You were number one.
We were the big number one. And then we were at some tailgate near the highway, and people were kind of hostile at first, and it's like, look, we don't like the Steelers either. We're from Houston. And then they're like, here's all the beer. and at the end of that game, you know, it was a pretty close game despite the fact that you're starting T.J. Yates, your third-string quarterback. We're at the end of the game, and I turned to this nice guy behind me that, you know, was, you know, super nice. I'm like, look, we're probably going to lose this game. But if we win, we have to walk back to our hotel. Could we, hire you to be our bodyguard? Because we were a little concerned that if the Ravens lost that game, it would have not been happy
I go to
outside.
our games. I don't ever, and I sit in the upper deck, I don't ever feel like if you were a visiting fan, you'd have to worry about your life. I mean, the Steelers come in and you know.
You got to remember that was a rare playoff game in Baltimore. There haven't been too many of them, let's be honest.
We've had a handful.
Yes.
Right.
Literally.
It would have been really disappointing. I got the sense with the people, and I was in the nice seats, and people are like, Arian Foster sucks. And I'm like, if you think so, sure, buddy. You know, he was basically the reason why they got to the point that they did, because Andre Johnson was hurt that year. They didn't have Matt Schaub, and he was basically putting the whole team, the whole offense on his back and saying, all right, let's go to the playoffs. But, you know, even if they would have won that game, Arian ended up having something done after, and you could see him limping at the end of that game. It's like, oh, this is not
well, the
looking
J.J.
good.
Watt thing is going to be huge for your organization to see how he bounces back from the injury.
Yeah, I mean, when you're dealing with back injuries, that's always a concern. But, you know, when you're also dealing with somebody who's just an extreme athlete, he's almost like a subset of one, you know, as far as rehab. Like, for some people, getting your second back surgery would say, hey, you retire. But if you're so good already, you know, and he's...
I see the kind of training he did in Hard Knocks, and it was a little overwrought.
Okay, but that was totally the
made for television?
No, it was the HBO part, because I was there for here he is doing all this workout stuff.
Throwing tires around and all that
well,
stuff.
that's the early, he's done with the tire throwing, I hope. That's ridiculous. But, they were showing this one segment of him going up and down the field at night, and I'm like, I was there. I was like, well, there was lots of players that were working out after practice that night.
He's the only one. It's 4 a.m.
It looked
and he's still picking up tires.
Well, you know, it looked like that from the way the angles were, but there was a boat ton of fans there getting autographs. And the whole time I was like, oh, it's 90 degrees outside. I am dodging the video cameras. I do not want to be on camera. I think they got one of my questions. I busted O'Brien, like, because, like my view is I don't like to speculate. If people are speculating about stuff, I'll just go ask Coach. So people are like, well, he's already picked Hoyer, and so this is just a sham, right? So I'm like, the rumors
That's
are.
right, you guys had Ryan Mallett at the time.
So I
there
said,
you go.
So I said the rumors are, that you say it's a competition, but Hoyer's really been picked, and I just want to put it out there. Is it still a competition? And then that was the answer in Hard Knocks, and my phone blew up. It's like, oh, that was you.
Last thing for you. I grew up a huge Aller fan.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, there's still a little Earl Campbell floating around here. Pastorini's going to come by later this week. We have the same thing in Baltimore. I mean, that's, every time a Colt jersey's out there, I think you guys have it a little easier because the Texans, the Titans look a little bit like the Oilers, but not so much anymore. When they wore the Derrick at Vanderbilt and at Liberty Bell, it's been 33 years.
Sure.
And Chuck Pagano, I love Chuck Pagano. I even get along with Jimmy Irsay. But that's, another jersey would have, helped ease the pain a little bit.
Well, first of all, we would likely agree about the whole.
You were Love You Blue?
Oh yeah, I've moved here in the midst of that. So that's how I kind of got all in with Houston football. But I think
Pastorini era or Warren Moon era?
Pastorini.
Oh,
era.
wow. Okay, so old school.
Yeah.
You look younger than that, Steph.
Well, thank you. But I think the hard, like, you guys have the hard part of the unis. We have the hard part not so much for the fans, but for the players, because when you talk to a lot of the Oiler players, they're like, we're the lost generation.
The Colts players felt the same way.
Our names are up in their stadium, but they didn't watch us play, and there is no Oilers. The Oilers are dead. Like, so they played for a team that no longer exists.
That really hurts.
Yeah, and
there's a little part of me.
Well, I have an interview somewhere on my YouTube, of Dr. Doom, Robert Brazil, talking about kind of that hurt. Like, he's the only person on the all-decade 70s linebackers. He's the only one that's not in the Hall of Fame, right? And who's advocating for him? It's not the Tennessee people, because they didn't watch him.
Where's John McClain? Where's the general?
John. I think
Get the
John.
general over here.
I think John has advocated for him, but there's so many deserving players that should be in the Hall of Fame.
Brazil deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Maybe that happens.
That's pretty good. That's a good job.
That's pretty good. That was very good. I can't
believe you had Steph on the show when you're talking about that. Where's Pastorini? Get his ass over here.
Actually,
is that pretty good?
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Where is he? I've always wanted to do my John McClain for John McClain.
I'll have to send him
I told him
over
I've got
here.
a really good one.
I'll have to send him. If I did that, I wouldn't have a voice by the end of the week.
All right. Well,
you got to save it.
I see the Oilers jersey, and Luke, you'll laugh at this, man. And maybe I give too much away, but I know I've said this on the radio at some point. I was a bigger Oiler fan than I am a Raven fan.
If that really? Wow. I never knew that.
Well, because it was very pure.
Yeah.
It was very innocent.
Yeah.
It was very distant and far away.
Sure.
It was very romantic. I was telling Luke, the only time I ever saw a game at the Astrodome, I saw Jeff Fisher's first game as the head coach, and they played the New York Giants on a Monday night. One team was like 3-8, the other was 2-9.
Yeah.
There was nobody in the dome.
Yeah.
They had 1 foot kind of out.
Yeah, that was the bad. Yeah, that was the bad.
94. They were almost gone. And, it was like circling the drain. Jack Parditas got fired. Warren Moon was gone. But that night was special to me. The yellow seats and the orange seats and the red seats and the
I have
green
my
turf
own story that way. It's so sad. Like I don't like to cry. That totally sucks. I hate crying. It's like my kryptonite. But I was in this flag football league. It's Sunday morning. My normal thing is I play 4 games. I'd go home, order a pizza, and watch football. And so I played my games. It was muddy. I was just gross. And I'm driving home, and it's the pregame for Steelers Oilers, the last game at the Astrodome. And I'm in my car just weeping. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the last time. We're not going to get football back here. And so I called a ticket broker because that's what you had to do back then. I said, do you have any like single tickets? And they said, yeah. So I like jumped in the shower, threw my clothes on, picked up the ticket, got there. I showed up in the middle of the first quarter. I sat next to somebody who was a Steeler fan and an Aggie fan, which is like a double bad. And the Oilers won. And then the players all came around. They all came around and like shook people's hands and signed things after, which is really, as you know, is really unusual after a game. They just
Houston
go
would get a team back, and I talked to Sam Farmer about this.
I didn't.
Well, it's too big. It's too big of a market to not. I mean, we said that about LA, and it took 25 years in LA.
No, I mean,
let's be honest. You got LA's team.
Well, no. The thing was, Roger Goodell wanted football in LA, even if LA didn't want it, and I'm like, hello, Houston, Texas. You know, people talk about the Cowboys, but that's like hours away. That would be like saying, you know, the Eagles go, so now, you know, Philly fans need to be Steeler fans. Like, really?
Right.
No, I mean, because, you know, the distance between Houston and Dallas is like
the Texans
far.
have been really good, though. I mean, you know, like it's a great environment. It's a good stadium. You've had 2 Super Bowls here. You know, you've had quality human beings like Gary Kubiak be a part of this thing, and not everybody gets to play in this game, as you guys know.
I think part of it is, you know, the Texans organization is almost like a cult of really nice people. Like the people, like the people that organize.
Bob Meyere's a good man, right?
He's a good man, and they learned a lot from dealing with Bud Adams and the mistakes.
We learned a lot from Bob Irsay and Mr. Angelos, by the way.
So, like, part of it is, like, there was no tailgating during Oiler days. Well, the Texans knew that they were not going to be good for a while, and so they wanted to make the game day experience big, and they have all those parking lots around. And so they made a point of not only making tailgating good, but it is the number 1 tailgating destination in the NFL.
It's a party here.
It's been called that. Oh yeah,
it is on. I mean, like, you know, I tell anybody, you come to Houston for a game, come early.
Yeah,
because it's a scene. And more so, I've been to
come
every
hungry.
Stadium. Come
hungry.
You'll see the smoke billowing out from the barbecue and the.
Well, we have that culture because, you know, we have like the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo every February and March, and they have the rodeo cook-off. Oh my gosh, I had somebody take me around like the Grand Championship barbecue stuff, and I thought I knew barbecue. I mean, heaven. It was just heaven.
I don't like rodeo, but I do like food.
Well, you know, it's kind of an event. You know, they have, you know, it's just an event, and everybody in the community is involved with it.
And everybody has
it's
boots.
Fun. And you get to. Well, that's the thing, you know.
A hat.
Boots are pretty
How
comfortable.
How stupid would I look in a cowboy hat?
I bet you could make it work.
Luke's just trying to think of it. What if I put a hat on and, like, on Friday
That's
we just
a special kind of stupid.
Yeah, that's really, really stupid.
Should I bring you one?
I am not a cowboy.
I'm all in on that idea.
I'm being old. Steph Stradley here from the Houston Chronicle. You give them any chance to win, the Falcons?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think that either one of the defenses has really been pushed by too many good quarterbacks. So these defenses are going to be really challenged. And
it's track meet.
It can be, and it's just going to be a play here, play there, maybe some ref calls. But, you know, this is, you know, they're facing a real offense, both sides. And the defenses aren't, like, dominant, like these are the best defenses, but they have their moments. And they're heavily aided by their offenses. And so it's really going to be, you know, who keeps it together and who wins in the fourth quarter. And, you know, Patriots are good at that. You know, they have lots of experience with that. Most of the metrics would say the Patriots are going to get it, but it's not like, oh, this team's this great and this team's not. I mean,
I don't expect a blowout.
The Texans, I mean,
it's a good game.
I think the Texans, like, from a metrics perspective, shouldn't even have been in that game with the Patriots, and they made it a game until their offense completely fell off. But that's a team, like the Texans have, like, a super negative offense, and they were in that game into the second half.
Well, the Patriots didn't play well either.
No, I think that defense was making it difficult.
Defense.
That's a good defense. It's underrated.
Especially
defense.
without J.J. Watt, they did a heck of a job.
No,
but I'm saying
and
in general they were good.
Without Rob Gronkowski,
right?
It's done a pretty good job over 8 weeks. We'll see if they can get one more.
Yeah, no, but like that was that's a dominant defense even without J.J. Watt. And I think that they would have been better had they even if they had like an average quarterback. Like their quarterback play last year was so bad.
And they spent so much money on it. She is Steph Stradley from the Houston Chronicle. You can follow her at Steph Stradley out on Twitter. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks
it's great
for
to
having
meet
you.
She's always a great guest on the program. Got her here on Radio Row. We're hanging out. When I have any more legal questions,
no. It's
the next time I get sued, I'll call you. You can find me in the Buy Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. Just download that TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear. We're here in Houston. We're at Super Bowl 51 on Radio Row at the Convention Center. Luke's riding shotgun. We're going to continue this great conversation on WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, where we never stop talking Baltimore sports.